So, KP, till now we have talked about resilience on a personal front and the generational comparisons is what we talked about. Now, let's focus on the workplace and the resilience associated with it. So, my first question over here is in a professional setting, how does the concept of resilience play out differently across generations? Do you find that a younger employee's idea of a tough day is different from that of an older colleague?
Absolutely. Uh, in comparison, talking about a time when in my initial years of career, probably tough day for me would be about making sure my bike starts. I have enough fuel to go to workplace. Make sure that I weave through the traffic. Back in the days, make sure that there's no rain and I get to work clean and dry. That was the first phase of having a tough day.
Yeah.
And obviously, there are different obstacles in terms of challenges of workplace management, deliveries, and so on and so forth, and along with networking. Biggest one is also about making sure I get back home safe in terms of after a long, tiring days of work. Do I need to make the right decisions in terms of what should I be doing? Should I be coming home for lunch and then pending things that was available? Because those were times when we didn't have laptops. So we had a workstation. And if you leave anything pending, which means you have to go really early the next day and kind of do that. Just taking that basic concept in terms of commute and finishing work at the workplace, I think that's changed a little bit. I think a tough day, I think, for the younger generation would be about their office cab didn't pick them up on time. So they're late
Yeah.
for things. And I mean, I've heard some people crib about the kind of current offices is offering and so on and so forth. So their bad day starts with a lot more variables than what we had. So I think they're open about cribbing about those things, but we were not, so to speak. Not that it was all rosy and sunshine earlier, but I think we were okay with those little bit of qualms that was happening in our day.
Yes.
So a tough day for us would be about something that's gone off the routine, or strikes or stuff like that. But I think a tough day for these generations are things that probably are paining them in their routine itself. I
Yes.
think that's probably, I would say, as a bigger change in terms of scope between generations.
Yeah, and I think on the food part, I think I recently had a discussion with one of the younger members, and they were discussing about that. Hey, we should have a lot of variety of food, and this needs to change, that needs to change. And I was like, okay, during our days when we started our career, getting the option of getting a food in the company was itself a big thing. Like it was a rare side. You had to get your own lunch boxes and all. So now they are like very particular about this is what I want.
So the level of comfort that people seek in a place of work has really, really increased now. For what are the reasons, maybe in terms of economic, in terms of financials, or in terms of actual talent retention, right? Different workplaces pamper their employees differently, but I think the more you get pampered, the more benchmarking goes higher and higher for anybody.
Yes.
I think we've started from ground zero, so anything is better than additional to the paycheck.
True, true, true. That is there. Okay, now that we were discussing about a tough day, so on the same lines, I have the next question for you. How can companies and leaders bridge this generational gap and foster a culture of resilience that works for everyone, from baby boomers to Gen Z, or I would say Gen Alpha? What advice would you give a manager who wants the support of the team and also on the mental fortitude part of it?
I think this is something that I've been practicing. I think what I've seen work almost with 60% success, I would say, with the latest generation. Getting 100 is quite difficult. Majority what's been working is as long as the leaders or the management gives them a clear sense of what is the expectation, why are they doing something, and what is the impact. I think that clarity is really, really important for you to even go to the next step. Give you a classic example. I was talking to a software engineer who does coding for an automobile part, which actually translates into a system. The fundamental part was telling them or making them aware that your job is to make sure people travel safely. A wrong code means something won't function, which means people in the car are not safe. As long as you're able to stitch the big picture to whatever single line of code that they do or a call that they do as an SDR or a salesperson, I think as long as you're able to say, okay, whatever they give as an input, what's the overall big picture, right? I think that clarity is really, really important, right? In the bigger scheme of things. And then you kind of break it down in terms of what does it mean for the individual and how can they break this down into smaller tasks, goals, KPIs or OKRs, or depending on what. Once you have a plan and it's agreed upon saying this is what we are out to achieve together as a team, then you basically shift gears and kind of make sure you kind of tell them, okay, these are things that you can enable them with, and these are things that you'll want them to be. Besides, so it's a give and take out there.
Okay.
Those three are probably the biggest things. And then the second part of your question in terms of making sure that they're, I think that's probably leadership 101 in terms of making sure you hear them out, remove their obstacles, and give them a platform where they can also be a little more creative because everybody is human. After a period of routine jobs or tasks, they get bored. You got to kind of
Yes.
make sure that you're intellectually challenging them as well. And the last part is obviously fun, which comes with an element of not virtual, but I think a lot more activities as a cake in the cafeteria, a lot more team building that will happen. There's a lot more opportunities now in terms of how we can actually do. I think that's kind of picking up. I've been seeing a lot more avenues for our teams to go out and compete with other organizations or other groups in terms of different sports, which means they have to train, practice, and then kind of go ahead and builds itself a different atmosphere of fun as well as a lot more to be digressed on each pass. Maybe the next time we speak about it. But I think, overall, I think as long as we are able to articulate clearly what they're doing, what's the clarity, expectation, make sure that as a leader, you're out there to remove their obstacles and then help them network and ultimately have fun.
Yes, I think that's a really great advice, and it'll be really helpful to all the leaders and new managers. I think so to connect with the new generation and work it out is what I would say. Now that we have talked on the personal front, we have talked about the corporate life. On the personal and closing thoughts that you would have, my question is: can you share a personal story of resilience, perhaps a challenge that you have faced, where you have had to lean on the wisdom or experience of a different generation?
Wow, there's quite a lot of incidents. Let me see if I can pick something that resonates. Oh yeah. Before I got onto the bandwagon of social media and things like that, right? I was trying to figure out by myself. I've been using older social networking platforms, right? I think this was the initial days when Instagram became a big thing, and my daughter started using that. So parallelly, I was thinking of having my own different set of content going on and trying to consume content. I pretty much struggle in terms of how to maneuver through different options. The UI is still fine, simple, but whatever. So as I said, adapting to a newer technology took me a little longer than expected. And I was looking at it, and she just couldn't have the patience for me to figure out different options.
Yeah.
He just came onto my face on my phone and said, "This is where you need to click. This is where you need to click." I was like, I would have figured it out eventually in a couple of months, but that was more of a funny side of the story. But talking back into actual resilience, I think mood. I've worked in different countries and things like that, so I think this is about pre-COVID when I had to come back to. I had mortgage and didn't have a house back with family. I was trying to figure out, okay, what's the next action plan?
Yeah.
Uh, this is where the Gen Z probably they look at things very differently, right? She said, as long as you know what to do. Sometimes that simplicity of thought kind of really helps in terms of we overcomplicating the list of things to do in life. Or
Yeah.
sometimes that just keeps you in calm waters, right? Saying life is not bad, you're still breathing, you figure it out.
True. That is there. So thank you for that. Okay, now concluding our podcast, this is the last question for you.
Yeah.
Considering your experience, what is the one piece of advice you would give to someone from a different generation who is currently facing a difficult time?
Seek help. You're not the only one who's going through this. All the billion people out there, you're not the only one who's going through that. So nobody's situation is very, very unique. Individuals are unique, situations aren't. Seek help, talk to your friends or family, whichever is closer. I think that's the first step I'd probably say to kind of make sure that you know what to do when you're bounced back.
Yes. Great. I think that was the best advice anyone would want. Thanks, KP, for your time. It was lovely interacting with you. And I think so all the listeners would love it, all your insights. I think a lot of them will even be able to resonate with what you're talking about. So thanks a lot for your time and thanks for being on the show.
You're most welcome. Thank you for having me, Arvind.